ACC Survival Plan. We appreciate you stopping by here at the Voice of College Football for the very best in discussion, debate, and analysis. Why? Based on your participation. Please like the video and subscribe right here at the Voice of College Football. We are extending Realignment Week. We warned you, much to talk about concerning realignment, and we have certainly stuck to the news throughout this entire shakeup of the college football landscape for the past 2 or 3 years. On this particular occasion, though, we are going through a series of possible models of various conferences. Check out the previous videos concerning the Big Ten, the SEC, and the Big 12. We have arrived at the ACC, and the ACC is in serious jeopardy and probably will never be the same. Clemson and Florida State have taken the conference to court. They are kicking and screaming, and they want out, and they will get out. There is no way that this relationship is going to be mended between the ACC and Clemson and Florida State. Recently, North Carolina has stated that they want out of the ACC. Miami is also a valued commodity. And at this point, what we are looking at is a mid-tier of the ACC, Louisville, Virginia Tech, NC State, Virginia, that have options possibly, that certainly have value, but they are not clearly a have versus the have-nots. Then we've got the have-nots section of the ACC, and they're in deep trouble. They certainly want the ACC to survive because they probably do not have a landing spot. So what we have here is a worst case followed by a best case scenario for the ACC, meaning let's say the ACC loses all of its valuable inventory. Florida State gone, Clemson gone, Miami, North Carolina also gone. And then the likes of NC State, Virginia, Virginia Tech, Louisville, gone. How would the ACC respond? Well, it could possibly crumble from there. However, there's a ton of schools left that still want to be viable in football and athletics and would want to keep the conference together, I believe. And they would have the quantity of schools to be able to pull it off if they make some key additions. So could this be the ACC of the future? And could this ACC of the future be somewhat of a replica of what we've seen for about 10 seasons from the American Conference, the AAC, from 2012 to about 2 or 3 years ago? The American Conference was certainly respectable, the most, by far, the best of the group of five, and respectable, especially in postseason play against the power conferences. Check out the record. So this could be a new version of the American Conference, which has been ripped apart by the defections of Houston, UCF, and also Cincinnati, and now this past season to SMU going to the ACC. So let's look at ACC candidates. When these 8 leave, we've got an ACC of just 9 schools. How would they fortify that to continue to be somewhat relevant? Let's look at the list. We start with Tulane. Now, as the Green Wave's success of recent years tied solely to its coach, Willie Fritz, who was left to Houston. Willie Fritz went 23-5 at Tulane over his final 2 seasons after some mediocre campaigns and trying to resurrect the program. But look at Tulane. From the team Sean King quarterbacked in 1998 to a 12-0 record, from 1999 up until just a couple seasons ago, Tulane went through a long stretch of going 97-184. Their coaching hire, John Sumrall, he went 23-4 and winning a couple conference championships at Troy. So it appears as though they have made another excellent coaching hire. Their stadium is new, 2014. It seats 30,000 people. Doesn't sound like a lot. However, let's consider that is in the range of Wake Forest, which only seats 31,000. Tulane is in an NFL city. So that means size and population and resources and money. So those are all positives, but there is the con to the pro of being located in an NFL city, and that's that everybody focuses on the NFL, and that's Tulane's issue. So our first candidate is Tulane. Our second comes out of that same American Conference and a very similar football program in Memphis. Toiled and struggled for years, much like Tulane, well under 500. But in recent years, they've made a series of head coaching hires that have worked out. So unlike Tulane, Memphis has proven it now with 3 consecutive coaching hires that have worked out. 88-41, the Memphis record since 2014, with current head coach Ryan Silverfield doing a nice job. They play in the Liberty Bowl, or whatever they call it now. We all know it as the Liberty Bowl, which seats 58,000 people. So now you have maybe the best of both worlds in having a major market connected to this team, but no NFL presence. They've got the NBA team, but this is the 50th rated television market in the country in Memphis, but no NFL team. How about South Florida? Their success over the past 15 to 20 years has depended on the head coach. Jim Leavitt was excellent. He won 63% of his games in the Big East and lifted South Florida football to heights they had never enjoyed. Willie Taggart, after a rough start, rallied to go 20-5 in consecutive seasons. However, the down period has been atrocious. Jeff Scott at one point went 4-29. Alex Golish showed us something last year, going 7-6 with a bowl win against Syracuse. This program all-time is 4-2 against power conference teams in bowl games and plays in an NFL stadium, 65,000 people, much like Tulane, though, overshadowed by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Therefore, you've got that NFL size, stadium, all the money and resources, population, and everything connected to that in a positive way, but you've got the issue of being overshadowed by the NFL with the Bulls of South Florida. North Carolina has been the ACC. The ACC has been North Carolina ever since the conference was formed in 1953, and I'm not just talking about my shirt's color, Carolina blue. I'm talking about all the schools from in that state along Tobacco Road. UNC, NC State, Duke, Wake Forest, all could be gone, or at least the power two at the top there, UNC and NC State. Duke has the basketball component that could be attractive to other conferences. So the ACC could want to further its presence in the state of North Carolina. Thus, our next possible candidate. Yes, Appalachian State. You cannot discount the success on the field. Since App State elevated from the FCS, where they dominated, they have been a solid player in the group of 5, going 88-30 since 2015. Under multiple coaches, their coaches continue to take Power 5 jobs, and App State just bounces back with another good hire. It's a solid football program. They've got a rabid fan base, though small, a rabid fan base with 30,000 in their stadium at Kid Brewer Stadium in Boone, North Carolina. And App State has shown up against the power conferences. They're 3-3 in their last 6 outings against the power conferences, and those losses are all close losses. App State, the next candidate. The ACC is first and foremost about basketball, and we therefore give you UConn. So the basketball sales job, I don't need to pitch that. That's obvious. Of course, they elevated from the FCS straight into the Big East. They're currently an independent. They showed under Randy Edsall in the mid to late 2000s that they could succeed. They went 55-44 in the Big East from 2005 through 2011, highlighted by that Fiesta Bowl run as the Big East co-champion in 2010. Their stadium, larger than others in the ACC at 40+ thousand. And again, the football could be good. It's a wild card. They need to pour in resources and get the right head coach, currently Jim Mora. UConn's our next candidate for the ACC. If Stanford and Cal can go to the ACC, we could probably go just about anywhere and sell it. But this actually makes sense because of the aforementioned 2. Add Washington State and Oregon State. This should not be a difficult sell for the ACC to convince these 2 schools that they're better off going to a power conference, and the ACC would be making these moves to hang on to its power conference status, than Washington State and Oregon State probably headed to the Mountain West Conference. So this is a better option. Plus, they're able to pair these 2 with Cal and Stanford to derive a northwest corner of the ACC. They bring quality play. Sometimes it's been proven that they're both established programs, certainly in Power 5 play for decades, but that they can play at a high level when they've got the right head coach. They don't bring television markets with them, but people are used to watching Washington State and Oregon State football on the major channels, and it's not the sales job that you would have to make with the likes of App State and to a lesser extent Tulane and Memphis in selling them as a big-time college football program, because they've already proven that. They've already played in bowl games for generations and been decent programs at times. Oregon State, Washington State to the ACC, does it work? Well, of course it works because of how we are going to set up the conference. Let's take a look. In the Northeast Division of the ACC, you've got 4 schools that are so tightly woven together, especially on the basketball front. This makes total sense. The pod of Boston College, Pitt, Syracuse, and UConn, oh, the basketball would be phenomenal. The football would be tolerable, but they have history together on the football field as well. Let's call it the Atlantic Division. Maybe we call it Tobacco Road. We could go with that. And basketball connections all over the place here. Of course, the football connections are the same. They're just not as prominent or as nationally significant. Duke, Wake Forest, Georgia Tech. Then we've got App State as we add them to the mix. Then we can call this next division the Mid-South Division. South Florida, Tulane, and Memphis have a ton of history together going back to the American Conference, also Conference USA. Throw in SMU. Of course, they've been added to the ACC already, and you've got a lot of schools right there, 4 schools that, much like the Northeast and actually the Atlantic as well, have history and regionality in common to a certain extent here. And then we go out west, and that fits perfectly. Cal and Stanford, Oregon State, Washington State, these schools have been playing forever in the Pac 8, 10, 12. There you go. That makes total sense. So it's the ACC at 16 divided into 14 pods that make complete sense. So that worked out wonderfully from that standpoint. How good is the football going to be? The basketball is going to be pretty good, especially with the addition of UConn. But the football, the best football program is who? Is it Pitt? It would have been Stanford 10 years ago. Can they elevate again? Stanford's got a very odd history of being down and awful and then jumping up and being near elite like they were under Harbaugh and Shaw. But the best football programs here, they would really need a resurgence from Syracuse. Tulane and Memphis are interesting, as well as SMU that's gaining some off-season love as a potential dark horse in the ACC for 2024. Your thoughts about the ACC, please subscribe and like the video. Let's keep it locked in here at the Voice of College Football.